today I have with me two very special guests. I have Blythe King and Mike Zetlan with Open Space Education. Thank you all for coming by.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. And I just wanted to give the listeners a quick background on why you guys are here. So I did have the opportunity last year to cover a mural unveiling with Open Space Education. They collaborated with students from Martin Luther King Middle School. And yeah, they had a big mural unveiling at Jefferson Park. Beautiful day, beautiful turnout with the community. And yeah, can you guys just share a little bit about the program and tell everyone what you guys do in the Richmond community?
Sure. So Open Space Education is all about accelerating student learning and creating these supportive, safe, and creative spaces for students to feel free and unhindered through the learning process. And we do that through our mission, which is to connect young people to nature through creativity by offering equitable access to nature, art, and alternative modes of learning. And we're partnering with Richmond Public Schools. So our programs are happening outdoors, on school grounds, and we're working mainly with elementary and middle school students.
Excellent. And thank you guys for doing that. I feel like art and education is not really taken as serious as that it should be. It's an outlet for students. They're also able to learn, and we just appreciate you all for having this program available in the Richmond area.
Yeah, we really see it as a supplement to the school day, especially because we were founded in response to the pandemic. So all of our programming has been tailored and developed to address pandemic learning loss. So we're really, a study in 2022 showed that Richmond students, 4th through 8th grade, lost 2 years of ground in reading and math. So we're really trying, and it's not just academic loss, it's also social skills, communication skills, social and emotional learning. So we really believe that nature and art, inherently provide the conditions for learning to happen. And we're really seeing that, we're now in our 4th year of programming, and we're seeing the effects of that with our students.
Yeah, and it was really interesting because, as Blythe said, we started in response to the pandemic. And so we were just kind of, we had some ideas, but it was just sort of like, let's fill this time, and how do we keep people engaged? And then as kids went back to school, and we were seeing these stats and seeing the effects of it, we realized we could expand what our mission was to work alongside RVS to enhance their, to prolong their day, to keep education going in the after school period. And we have some really interesting and exciting programs coming up. We're partnering now with True Timber. They have a campus on the south side of Richmond, and so we have access to almost 40 acres of land, and we're going to have a small building there for us, but we're probably not going to use it too much because we like to keep the kids outside. But it's a place, if it's wet or we need to do some stuff inside or we want to do some play. So that's a really exciting part of it. And all of these things help expand the stuff that the kids are learning. So, those 2 years that Blythe was talking about before, like a lot of that, especially with the younger kids, was just learning how to be social, how to be emotionally safe, how to be secure in your surroundings. And if my son missed K through first being at home, and I always joke, like he didn't learn how to go to school in those 2 years, right? So when he came back, because that's his time period, he had to him and his classmates had to learn how to line up, go to
basic life skills.
They had done it online for so long that it was you could see it, that regression, and where they were lacking it, and we thought we were uniquely positioned to help out those problems.
Thank you. And it's great to see how much this program has grown, and I can't wait to see, what new projects you guys are working on in the community, because it's really a great program. It really is.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we collaborated with muralist and art educator Oz Miles on that program, and who's nationally recognized for the work that she does. And
Excellent.
it was really, we had designed the program with her that the students would be involved in every step of the mural making process. So not only were we connecting the students to the park, which, MLK Middle School is less than a mile away from the park. So this is their neighborhood park. So we're really engaging them in their community in this highly visible way, but also giving them that experience of ownership and agency of creating this really beautiful piece of art. And I live in the neighborhood, and it's so wonderful to see how it has changed the park, and how it's created this beautiful setting for people to gather. And it's actually one of the few murals in the city that's lit up at night too. So I think that's really special.
That's wonderful. And that's what sets it apart from all the rest of the murals. Because Richmond is a mural city. Yeah. It's so many of them, and everybody has their favorites. So this is becoming one of the community's favorites.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool. I had fortunately been able to work with Austin previously, and I think it's a really cool opportunity for these kids to work with these really well-known artists, whether it's locally or nationally, and we were able to put them in front of them. We knew that what Austin was going to bring to that was something that we couldn't provide, individually, and just the way she thought about it and the way she talked to them, and the questions that she could provoke out of them was, and then watching them take those ideas and those prompts, and then the thing that they created, like we were saying, we had no plan in the beginning of that mural. We wanted, and that's intentional, we wanted them to come up with it, and so watching it come to life, and then their excitement around it, and for a lot of these things, we've had these stories throughout the history of us, of our organization, is like kids learning things. Blythe and I were joking yesterday that the magnolia tree should be our symbol, because kids just love magnolia trees, and a lot of them don't know what they are. And when they learn what they are and the history, or just the history of a magnolia, they get really involved. We had 2 kids in the beginning of our programs when we first started who, once they learned what a magnolia tree was, they couldn't
naming it.
Yeah, they named it, and they cared about it. They were bringing other kids over. This is so when you can open just a little crack of this is what this thing is, and they were becoming way more interested in a way that I think speaks differently to kids because it's on their own terms, right? It's not. Our teachers in RPS are amazing, but sometimes you get bored or you're tired and you don't want to hear this is a magnolia tree. But when you discover it on your own, right? I know there's amazing teachers. I am not, taking away anything from that. But it was something about finding it on their own that made it that much more special for them, and they were probably way more invested in that tree. And it's happened over and over again. And then we were joking about it because there's a magnolia tree in the middle of this mural. And we're like, that was, again, not planned. Maybe there's something about that tree, which is, we learned all this stuff about it, that it's not pollinated by bees, it's pollinated by beetles because it's such an ancient tree. And it has all these really unique properties. So,
but that's, cool. I think that's you kind of touched on your original comment about, art being seen as this sort of extracurricular thing, but really we're seeing nature and art take us straight to the source of learning.
Very true. Of everything, life, the classroom, and
that
beyond.
Experience of discovery, exploration, but also sharing and engaging. So just inherently learning is in the setting of nature. Whenever we take the kid, we're going on nature walks on school grounds. We're actually getting the kids to look at the outdoor space in a different way. We're slowing down. We're kind of going beyond the playground and the athletic fields, right? And taking a closer look at all of the natural materials around us. And we're actually making our own art supplies, our own paintbrushes, paints, and paper from these natural materials that we're collecting on school grounds. So there is this process of exploring, discovering, surprise, experimentation, but so much engagement and sharing. So much of the process is collaborative. We're making our own paints. It's really involved. And again,
this is awesome.
And our own papers, which is even more involved.
But the students are involved in every step of that process. So we're breaking up rocks and clay, brick, and charcoal charcoal, and then we're grinding it into mortar and pestle to make pigment, and then we're adding binder and
so
shaking.
Cool.
So like,
Yeah.
but it becomes this really team effort, and
Yeah.
the students together will name the colors.
Yeah.
The spicy red
Yeah.
was the
Yeah,
clay
spicy
brick.
red, yeah.
I'll never forget
Yeah.
that.
And then they always guess like, what if I break this thing? What color will it be? And we've had like, how do I make white? Like once they kind of master it, then like, here are some other colors I would like to make. So how do I do that? And it's not always a straight path, right? It's not like put a bunch of grass in there and it'll be green. But they love it because they want to see it, and the process is it's really active. It's really involved. It's hands-on. We're not taking it away from them, so they're doing the entirety of the experiment. So they are not getting frustrated like, well, it didn't work. It's like, well, let's do it again.
Like,
well,
or
let's
let
do
me
it again.
try this.
Yes, let
or-
me try that. Okay, this isn't
Yes.
quite what
Nobody's
I want.
giving up.
No,
They're
no,
like,
no,
okay,
yeah.
I'm going
Actually,
to
I
figure
think-
it out.
I think they're more determined to keep going. And I think,
I love that.
I think a lot to do also has to do with the setting, because we're always outside. Like unless it's really pouring down rain or terrible outside, obviously if we cancel for lightning, we stay outside the whole time. And a lot of times school's like, well, it's gonna be cold. And we're like, they gotta deal with it, And I found on my own, if my son's now in 4th grade, if he has studying to do, we just take a walk. And that's always the way that
Yes,
works.
or just sit outside.
We go sit
yeah.
outside. We will go to. There's a creek near our house behind his school, and we walk. Like last week, he had to memorize Patrick Henry's speech. He was frustrated with it. I was like, put on a coat. We're going to take a walk. And we came home and he had memorized it, because it's just like it's more relaxing. He's looking at things. We took breaks to like explore the creek and see what's going on in this tree or whatever. So I know for him it works. And I think it works for a lot of the kids. It's just he's not sitting.
It's an embodied
Yeah.
experience. Like
Yes.
that's another thing that really stands out to us and that we really believe is important, is that these experience of learning, of exploration and discovery and sharing experienced in their bodies. Once they have it in their bodies, they can recall it. And
they will carry it with them.
And it extends to the school day. So
Yes.
that's the important sort of piece that we're adding. And especially if we're looking at this pandemic learning loss, how do we get that extra supplementary learning?
Right.
And that's
Give
what
them
we're
that
really,
catch
that's what
up.
we're addressing, and
Yeah.
that's what we're doing. And we're finding that nature and art is kind of really making up for that lost time,
I believe it is too.
Yeah.
And like I said, I can't thank you enough for doing this, because I have a little one as well. My daughter, she's 4 years old, and I noticed the same thing. They're not as invested in like the traditional homework, but I notice like whenever I'm like, well, can we draw this picture? Or how about we just go outside and work on your handwriting? It's just a whole different setting. So you're giving these students the opportunity to think creatively about their environment.
Yeah. It changes that dynamic in a really meaningful way.
And it's exercising that critical thinking, problem-solving skills too, as well as this, again, the communication, social and emotional learning, like all of that is happening.
Yes.
And again, that experience extends into every field of study. It extends into their school day, into their educational experience. And we're also finding that this programming is increasing student confidence. 87% of open space students say that they feel more confident after their open space class.
Yeah.
I can believe it,
Yeah.
because you just mentioned like instead of giving up, they keep trying and just try to figure out the best way that they can do things. So I believe it rubs off in the classroom and even at home.
Yeah. We had a program when we first started and kids were still out of school, and an art teacher at an elementary school was teaching with us, and they had a few other students that were taking this class, and we had one student, it was the first time they'd ever heard them speak, because over Zoom they just didn't have the confidence to do it. They had never met their teacher. They didn't know what it was. And then they took this class together, and after that first time, they were like, I've never heard him speak before. And he was this great kid. It was really fun to have him in our class. But just like those, like these small things that are hard to put a quantifiable number on. We're seeing breakthroughs with that, and it's really interesting to watch. And I think the other thing that we always talk about is kids are kids and they're doing all this stuff. Like, we don't have that much craziness in our classes, right? And we're experienced educators.
Because they want to be there.
Well, they want to be there, but I think also if a kid is feeling antsy and has the wiggles, wants to get out, we're like, oh, just go run around. And they're like, we're not going to get in trouble. Like, no, just you need to run.
Yourself.
And they come right
Let
back,
it
and they
out.
always come back. And then because we've had definitely some people you can't teach a class for 2 hours. Like, we can definitely teach a class for 2 hours because they're just involved and they're not we're not asking them to sit behind a desk for 2 hours. We're not asking them to do this thing for 2 hours. So there's so many things for their little brains to focus on that they're always interested in something. Yeah.
And it's just, I think that the open space that that we're providing it allows the students to self-regulate, in a way, because the environment is uncontrolled. Somehow it allows the students actually to focus more, because and that's another. We see our programs as a supplement to the school day, but also a complement to the school day.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
where the school day is so controlled, it's a very controlled environment, we're kind of opening that up and transitioning into this more uncontrolled space, but it's also heightening students' senses and their experience of their senses. And actually, that's how this whole program started, because I was teaching an after-school art program at Albert Hill Middle School. I'd been working with a group of students for 3 years. They were mostly rising ninth graders when the pandemic hit. And everything shut down, but I felt like I couldn't leave these students. So I actually contacted their parents, got the group of kids together, and started taking them on outings in the city parks. And I developed an art program. We were learning about artists who were inspired by nature. So the students were making art based on their own experience of nature. But after a few weeks, they started telling me, I feel more focused in nature. I'm using all of my senses in nature. I feel more observant in nature. And that really struck me because it was a revelation to these students, because that wasn't their normal experience. They have trouble focusing and connecting with their senses. So that made us kind of or me at the start, wonder about why aren't they what are they struggling with?
Right.
And so as I started, and it also, I knew that I wanted to expand this to a wider audience, because I really didn't have a plan to start open space. It kind of just happened because I recognized a need. And as I started sharing my ideas about open space, more than one person told me to contact Mike. And we both share this background in working with arts organizations in the city. And that first conversation, we just realized how aligned our thinking was. So more research then led us, all the research then supported what the students were telling us, that nature, it's scientifically proven to benefit our health and well-being, but it has especially profound effects on the development of children.
Yes. And how would you say the community has reacted to open space education and what you all are doing?
Yeah, I think it's been overwhelmingly pretty positive. We've had a lot of feedback from parents who really love it, and we definitely have people always asking us, how can I take your class? How do I get my kid involved? And it's all through RPS right now, so we can't be at every school all the time.
Very true.
So we're working.
Not yet.
Not yet. So looking for more funding so we can expand our reach within the city. But yeah, we've had an art show. We've had a few art shows, and we've had the mural unveiling, and we get a really great turnout, and it's really nice when we can make that connection with the parents. And I think the Jefferson mural was great just because we spent so much time just talking with the community, and really meeting our neighbors. People would come and stop by and help and come and stop and help out. So that was really fun.
Yeah, we learned that murals create community through that project. People would gather around whenever we were painting and talk to, but we also connected with some of the families who had grown up at the park. They've lived there for generations, so they came and
probably
shared
told you the
stories.
history of the park
Yes.
and how it was back in the day.
Yes.
Definitely, there's people that wanted to tell us, you're putting this mural up, but do you know what happened here 10, 20, 30 years ago, even longer.
Yeah.
So it was really, and they were, they wanted to come and tell us what was going on. Not that we weren't asking, but, you can't ask everybody everything. So it was really neat to see people come and stop by. And then we definitely had some regulars who would, every week they were out there, oh, it's looking better now. It's looking great. What are you going to put over there?
Just wanting to see, I guess, every transition.
Absolutely.
Until the final masterpiece.
Yeah, because, I don't go to Jefferson Park daily. I'm certainly been
Me
back,
either,
but these are people that do.
It's a
And
well-known
so
park.
We were coming in and, we wanted to make sure we were representing the community that was going to use it on a daily basis, which is why we wanted to work with MLK Middle School, because those are the kids that live in that neighborhood, right there a mile away. We don't want to just come into some neighborhood, put something up and then leave. That's not how community works.
Very true.
So we wanted to really make sure the imprint that was being left was representative of the people that want to see it every day. So there's definitely been people. There's one person who said, "I love that they can walk out their front porch and see this every day." Things like that always stick with me.
And the program, it really was designed to connect the students to the community in this highly visible way. So it became an expression of their experience of a very specific place, and learning the history and engaging in that storytelling was all part of that and very important to the learning process of creating that piece of art.
And now they're a part of history, and
Yeah.
they're able to
Yes.
share their
Yeah.
stories
I know.
with the next generation to
names are
come.
all
Their
on the
names are all
wall.
on there. They were pretty
That's
proud.
cool.
We talked about it beforehand, but they're like, I don't want to say anything that day, but they're all pretty proud that day. You could tell.
No,
And they
Yes.
wanted to talk, maybe not through the microphone, but they all wanted to talk amongst themselves. Like, we were there for a while afterwards.
know.
They all wanted to, did you see this? Sharing with parents, sharing with friends, other people that had shown up and said, that was my idea. I really like this. Did you see I
Yes, I
painted
did
this
this
piece?
part.
Yeah, everyone, they don't want to admit it, but they were very proud of it.
But we're experiencing
believe
that
it.
too in our, we exhibit student work. We've had an exhibit at Art Space. We had an exhibit at 43rd Street Studios as part of the NCCRA conference last spring. And we're finding the importance of exhibiting student work because the students want their art to be seen, and they want to share it. And we're seeing the student, they're just anyone who comes by, I made that, and that again, that's elevating their voice. It's giving them that experience of agency and ownership that again will extend, into their lives. Beyond this open space class.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see what you guys have planned in the future. I know it's only going to grow more and expand from here. But I wanted to ask before we wrap up, what new projects do you guys have going on? Any mural projects or school projects?
Well, our biggest thing is partnering with True Timber on the south side, and we'll be having summer camps. So please, make sure to look at our website for that, and continuing to partner with more schools is really our focus right now. And all of our programming for Richmond Public Schools is free for Richmond Public Schools families. So all of the work, since 2021, we've partnered with 13 Richmond Public Schools and served over 1,300 students.
That's wonderful.
So we've only been able to do that from the support from the community.
Yes.
So we really encourage people to donate to our program to support our nature-based arts programming in the city schools to really help enhance student learning in our schools, in our city.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can find everything on our website, which is openspaceed.org. Those camps that Blythe just mentioned are on there. Those are paid, but they are open to everybody. So you don't have to wait for us to get to an RPS school. If you're really interested in our programs, there's 2 weeks of the summer that, open for anybody. And we have just, we're trying to do monthly, like a scavenger hunt walk through True Timbers campus. So the next one is February 22nd. It's 4 hours. It's great. We have a wonderful teacher who just really embodies everything that we do, and takes the kids, through an adventure through the woods. They're finding things, they're observing things. So those will be monthly. So there's a lot of different ways to get involved and to, to help us raise money so that we can be in more schools throughout RPS.
Yeah, and our
Excellent.
partnership with True Timber is really helping us establish a home base for open space.
Yeah.
So that we may have some opportunities to volunteer for
Yep.
build days, helping build that structure there, and then probably having a big celebration.
Yeah, yes, yeah, look for more
Excellent.
stuff coming out of True Timber. We're gonna try to maximize that space. It's a really beautiful space. It's like this little hidden gem with a creek and, acres of woods that, like a good amount of wildlife. It's really fun.
Yeah,
And zip lines.
And also
Sounds
really interesting
amazing.
history too. There's
Yeah.
an old, 19th century railroad track that kind of
Okay.
borders the property, and this beautiful. There's kind of a hill, but there's a tunnel that goes through the hill that the creek flows through. But it's a beautiful, hand
Yeah,
cut granite arched tunnel. So that's very interesting. The kids just want to
Yeah.
go in there.
Yeah.
So
This is going to be amazing. It sounds like nature, history, and art is going to be
Yeah.
all in one place.
yeah.
So please keep us posted
We
for
will.
the celebration. I will definitely follow up with you guys.
Yeah.
Anything else you would like to share, or?
No, we're just really grateful to be part of the community
Yeah,
and be able to share our
yes.
story with
really
everyone.
excited.
Yeah, it's very
And
exciting.
like I said, I'm excited to see what's going to happen next with you all. I know it's going to keep expanding. So just keep in touch with
Yeah,
us.
we will.
Thank
Thank you so
all.
much.
No
Thank you.
problem. Thank y'all for coming out.
Thanks.